Welcome back to another episode of Start, Grow, Monetise Your Podcast with me, Alex Chisnall, and him, James Burtt. And today we are talking how to use paid ads to grow your podcast. Yes, really, you can use paid ads to grow your podcast. But guess what? Most podcasters are not even touching paid ads. Why do you think that is?
I think because they probably do, if they have dabbled in it and tested it, they've tested the wrong thing, got burned very quickly and gone, well, that doesn't work. What I have seen people do is they start a new podcast and then they just either do a boosted post. Oh my God, you literally might as well just take your money out of your pocket, set fire to it and watch it just disintegrate off into dust, into the ether, and then just repurpose itself into Zuckerberg's pocket. I mean, it's the worst use of marketing spend ever. Do not boost posts. It's crap. But what I think that more broadly people do is that they just advertise a new show to a broad audience, and then they just hope for the best. Or they'll go, right, this is a motivation podcast. So target, if you're not doing the boosting, if you're going into the back end of, all of like the meta advertising suite, you're probably going, target people in London who like Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Brendan Burchard, Lewis Howes. Show them my podcast content. But you're not showing them, you're just showing them a generic clip. You show them a generic bit of artwork. There's nothing. I don't think I've ever, think about it, I don't think I've ever clicked on cold podcast advertising that's generic and then gone to listen to it. Ever. What you might want to do is push people to a landing page, which has got more information about the podcast. For sure, that could work. There are some smart advertising platforms out there, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these things can and will work. And I don't want to be one of those people because it hasn't worked for me. I don't want to be someone who goes, advertising doesn't work, because it quite clearly it does. It's a massive, massive industry. You've got to advertise in the right way. And you can't just go, hey, I've got a new podcast. I don't know you. You're cold traffic. Here's my podcast. Go listen to it. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, and what can you do these days? So what you can do, Spotify now do ads, okay? So for me, if you're going to go down this route, then that would be a great way to test it, as in your audience is on Spotify listening to podcasts, right? So going back to a previous episode, in theory, your audience is not having to jump off Spotify to go to another platform. The ad is being served to them on Spotify. They might be listening to a podcast, go and listen to this podcast instead. It's an easy jump to make, right? So you'll get a percentage of that audience if you are uber targeted, like James says, who will go and do that. You've got YouTube ads, you've got Google ads, you've got Meta ads, so Facebook and Instagram. You've also got LinkedIn ads. Did I mention LinkedIn? I can't remember. What else am I missing? Anything else out there?
No, one of the other things that people don't think about because it's not a social network, but I think this could be one of the things that's actually effective. There's platforms like Mowpod. So if you've ever checked out Mowpod before, so Mowpod is an advertising platform, and it used to be you'd have to do a minimum of I think it was $1,000. So it was quite cost prohibitive, but they've come up with a less than enterprise package. You can do it for, I think, any amount of money now. And basically they will create, they have a lot of placements on banner ads. So they would take, for example, if I'm doing screw it, just do it, for example, that pretty resonates with business content, sports content, maybe wellness content. They would proactively place the advert for that in different banner ad spots, and you only pay for the clicks that have gone through. So for $500 or whatever, they will do a banner ad. The banner ad then bounces through to a landing page, which is why they can guarantee that the click has happened. So I tested this for a podcast. It was like, you've had 400 clicks in Canada and 200 clicks in America and 300 clicks in Australia. And I looked at the back end of the RSS feed and it was bang on in line. So with the traffic they had driven was legit. So I would say in this space, look at things like a Mowpod, which is designed for driving traffic with a specific purpose, like a banner ad that goes to a landing page. That landing page will then drive a direct output rather than just going down the route of like a YouTube or a LinkedIn or one of those platforms. It was a guy we had on. We had a guy on as well, didn't we? Had Dave on. Oh, I can't remember Dave's name, which is very embarrassing for me. But he came on and done an episode with us, and we noticed there was a lot of traffic to that particular episode. Oh, what's happened there? And he had run adverts. He had run spot ads or banner ads on LinkedIn and across the banner network. So don't just think that paid ads is I know we've talked about it first, but it's not just Google ads, it's not just YouTube, it's not just Instagram Reels. It is probably much better to target things like a Mowpod or Dave's company, which I still can't remember. I'm trying to think about.
Have a research while I'm talking. So
We will research, yes.
did a little bit of research. ChatGPT, what episode was
Just wanted to take a quick minute to say a big thank you for watching this podcast. If you are thinking about starting your own podcast to grow your brand or your business, then we would love to help you out. Yourpodcastcourse.com is a place where you can find 55 on-demand videos. There's trainings, there's blueprints, there's guides, there's cheat sheets, there's downloads. Everything that you need to utilize and to start your own powerful podcast is in there right now.
It's guaranteed for 7 days. So if you don't like it, we'll return your money, and we're going to start you off with a fantastic offer.
Absolutely. Just because you are consuming this podcast for a limited time only, for the first 25 people only this is going to be, we're going to give you 50% off yourpodcastcourse.com. Click the link that's in the show notes. There's information there, and it will be 50% off joining the course. As I say, we will walk you through how to start, how to grow, how to monetize your podcast. We'll talk to you about artwork, setup, names, ideal listener profiles, how to get the ideal guest, how you do the interviews, how you do the 14-day launch process, everything you need to utilize and to know to create a powerful podcast. We will tell you. We've done it 400 plus times. We have done some of the most successful podcast launches in Europe at this point in time, and the exact strategy and process that we charge tens of thousands of pounds to our agency clients for, you can get access to through yourpodcastcourse.com. 50% off for a limited time only. Click the link in the show notes now. Cheers.
So I had an experience of this recently, actually, with a client who put some spend behind the podcast that we launched. We launched a podcast for an organization that's the largest creative community in Europe. So lots of musicians, writers, producers, that kind of thing. And they put a small budget initially behind each of the 10, 12 episodes that we launched for them. And it was really useful in that you could see, obviously, this was done by an agency that specializes in this thing. But what was really useful, I think, at the start of a podcast journey is that you can see exactly who's listening to your podcast or who's watching your podcast. They did it through the YouTube. So it was like, who's watching this podcast? Where do they live? What do they do? All of those things you could get super drilled down, what country, what state, what town, how old are they male, are they female, are they a mixture of the two? They could really drill down in it, and I think that was really important early doors for your podcast to find out who is resonating with this content, and then you can double down on that by increasing the spend and then getting uber focused on that audience. So again, to your point, let's show it to more people who are, I don't know, aged 18 to 25, are female, that live in Bournemouth, blah, 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 blah. You can literally target the house next door to you. You can get super dialed in on this kind of stuff now. But it was good seeing, a professional agency, and the person who was overseeing the campaign had been in this space for years, know what she was doing and see the results. And you can see which ones are working and which not, and which episodes, they just set the same budget across all episodes, and you could see which episodes were popping and which were just flatlining. And they're like, okay, so let's double down on the spend on this one. And this one, clearly the audience is not resonating with, and it was the older demographic of guests that we had on the show, but it was the younger demographic of guests. And, no shit, Sherlock, Gen Z highest listenership of podcasts more than any other age demographic. So it was an interesting and a worthwhile exercise to do. And as I say, they just started off with something like £150, which again, yes, it could be a lot of money for some people if you're starting out. If you're running your own business, that could be a small amount of money that you're pushing your content out there, and you're getting brand visibility, you're building the thought leadership, your authority in that space. All of those things are happening as well, right?
We'll end with this sort of the most famous example, I think, of podcast advertising, and he's talked about it a lot. Again, if you're of the mind to start a podcast, you've probably already consumed a bunch of his content. But Stephen Bartlett and their gang over at Flight Studio, Flight Story, Flight Club, whatever they're calling it these days, Flight Story, isn't it? Flight Studio, sorry. And what they do is they beta test 100 thumbnails for every single episode, and they put budget behind it. Now, all they're doing there, and I sort of talked earlier about don't just generically advertise a podcast because it's not going to do anything. But I think in that instance there, they do just bounce it through to like a generalized Instagram page. But all they're looking to see, they're not looking for a conversion metric. They're not looking for them to go somewhere else, or they're not looking. The only outcome they're looking at is the click through, or what is driving that click. So they will have a bunch of, as I say, they will have 100 thumbnails. They'll have 100 slightly different variations of the text. Is the person on the left? Are they on the right? What color are we using? Are they looking at the camera? Are they looking down from the camera? Are they looking sad? Which word is highlighted, and they do a bunch of those tests as well. Now, I appreciate not all of us, myself included, have got the time, inclination, or budget to run 100 beta tests for every single thumbnail that you're doing. But, for example, that could be a good way to very quickly test some of what you want to do. And again, with the thing with Facebook is that you don't have to spend huge amounts of money. You could say, well, I've got 10 thumbnails here. I'm going to stick a tenner on each one. Now, if that tenner on each one goes, well, there's one clear winner and that drives more of a click-through rate, then that can be very, very beneficial, especially if you get to the point in time where you're like monetizing your YouTube channel. We put out a podcast for one that I've been doing for a celebrity podcast. And last night, put it out and it's got 4,000 downloads overnight, 4,000 mainstream views on YouTube overnight. Now, it's only got 700 subscribers because it's a relatively new show. And yes, we've got very famous people who are involved in it. But we know, okay, cool. Our listeners or our viewers like this kind of content, or was it the thumbnail? We're also running the beta test on the YouTube thumbnail to find that out. But you can test and measure, and this is really the important part. To summarize, I guess, is to measure it. Don't just chuck a bunch of money out and go, yeah, cool. It drove a bunch of downloads. That's great, but why? Was it the guest? Was it the placement? Was it the thumbnail? Was it the content? Did you do a short episode? Did you do a long episode? Was it a solo? Was it a round table? Test and measure all that kind of stuff. What you should not do is just take a bunch of money and go, hey, generic person that I've never met before, listen to my podcast, please. That is not going to get you an ROI on the advertising spend you're putting into it.
Thank you for listening. You've been a guest of Start, Grow, Monetize Your Podcast. If you enjoyed this content, you can start your own podcast by going to yourpodcastcourse.com and listening to and watching the 55 videos that James and I have got there. And you can come and meet us live at Festival of Entrepreneurs, along with the likes of founders of billion-pound businesses, Dragon's Den investors, you name it. Go to festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk.